Hey everybody, welcome to Sexy Nerd Science, Season 4, Episode 9. We are sitting here with a lovely guest today, Benito Garcia.
Hey everybody.
Say hey.
I was going to say, you skipped out on our whole intro there.
I guess I did.
This is twice. This is two podcasts in a row where like Drew explains the rules and then just goes right past it.
You know what it is? You know what it is? It was it was doing the interviews at Con. Because I started doing the interviews at Con differently, so
I can see that.
I think that's what it is, because it's 2 weeks after Con now.
You're just like, oh man, let's do this, and I was like, yeah, okay.
Hey everybody.
Hello there.
So yeah, we've got Benito here in the studio, gonna look at talking about his book. But first, Josh, you want to plug the audiobook deal?
Yes. So Sexy Nerd Science every week is brought to you by Audible. Make sure to go to sexynerdscience.com/audible for a free 1-month trial and a free audiobook download, and make it a good audiobook like Ready Player One, Armada, Astrophysics for people in a hurry. That's a really good one that I like. My next book that I'm going to be reading is going to be part of Rick Riordan's series for the Trials of Apollo. So
you're going to be listening to that one, you mean?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's a whole thing. Like,
it's reading with your ears.
It's really a whole thing. Like, there's quite a debate and controversy about that.
Oh, about like calling it reading a book?
You say I read this book, but literally, actually,
listen to it.
Really?
People really get kind of uptight about it.
I don't know. Like,
I mean, I just give them shit. I like to do that. So, but we actually, so do that. You guys do that, and it gets us a little bit of kickback if you guys sign up. Even if you guys don't sign up and you just do the 1-month trial, it still gives a kickback. So it helps us bring this content.
I think it does. I haven't gotten any sort of.
Well, maybe those people that said that they did it lied to you.
No, they're still using their audiobooks.
Oh well. Anyway.
Don't you get like a free book a month?
Yeah. So if you sign up for it, it's technically you pay like $14.99 a month after the first month, and you can get a free book. You can get a free download every month with that $14.99. And most of the books, if you were to get them on audiobook anyways, are in the $20-$25 range, but you're only paying $14 for it. So it's,
and you get to keep that the entire time you have a subscription, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Listen to it online, whatever you want.
Speaking of books, the reason we're here today.
I should do an audiobook.
You should do one that
just describes it.
Yeah, describes
oh, this one looks really rashy, and
you should do it and then have it be like one of those ones that it just like it's a picture book, but I mean obviously like yours is, but it just scrolls across the screen, so you don't have to. You can listen to it,
right?
And then you just this is a rash from
picture reading with Benito, and he's sitting there and he's like, there's all these like nerds and special effects artists and videos like, and here you go, like showing
all
it
on
off
the floor.
Like
Yeah.
Goes and reads the next page.
Yeah, so this is Benito's baby right here. It's been available for all of how many days?
Oh my gosh, I would say 2 weeks and a little bit of change. So
yeah.
2.5 weeks probably.
So go ahead and tell us about the book. Tell us kind of start to finish. What kind of? I mean, obviously we know you from the special effects company and doing all your.
The deal with the book was, I think I was researching. It was 6 months ago, so I'm trying to think what project I was working on. It's hard to tell. I was researching something online, and I remember that I had Google searched it. So, just for an example, I'll say I was trying to look up a compound fracture as a reference for a film, and I remember as I Google searched it, there's 3 or 4 good pictures, and then there's just a ton of pictures that have nothing to do with a compound fracture. Or it breaks it down into compound, or it breaks it into fracture, and then it turns into porn.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I'm scrolling through all these pages and just frustrated as hell trying to find what I was looking for. And the photos aren't so great. The resolution's not so great. You try to print them off, and it's even worse. And I was frustrated sitting there, and Megan said, it's too bad there's not just a book or a reference guide, for special effects artists of just specific things that they're looking for. And I said, there could be, actually. And when we started talking about it, Megan and I You know, there's a ton of medical reference books out there already. They're very expensive. They're in, $200 range, $300 range if you need a medical book for school. There's some forensics books out there that are pretty informative if you want to be a forensics investigator. The images aren't real big in those books. It's not great. And so I reached out to Tom Savini, and I told him what my thought was. He's got a few books in his arsenal that are, they talk about the movies that he's made, and he talks about behind-the-scenes special effects that he did on the films. Anyway, I hit him up and kind of gave him the idea, and he said the same thing I just said. He's like, well, there's medical books out there, and he's like, there's a specific book that I always use that I really like. And he's like, I don't know. And I said, but we need one that's specific just to special effects artists. Well, I don't want to use someone else's books. We can just have our own. So I said, I'm going to go for it anyway. I said, I'll keep you informed on how it goes. I started looking into where to get the images from, because you can't just steal stuff from Google. I mean, you can. But
that's plagiarism.
Photos.
Yeah.
Someone somewhere down the line, maybe 500 people down the line after it's been shared, owns those photos. So I started looking into photo supply companies. And there's ones that deal with everything, and then there's ones that deal with specific genres, and one of them was medical. And as I started to find photos that I liked, and I'd hit the purchase button, those photos, one picture could be anywhere from $200 to $700.
Because they know, I mean, those people, especially if you're going to use them for something that you're going to make revenue on, they're going, hey, you're going to use this. It's going to get, put in, how many books have you sold at this point?
Gosh, we are up to, we've probably sold over 100 and some easy.
Yeah, see, and so
worldwide too, right? I believe I saw.
Super cool. Yeah. I shipped one to Austria. Drew and I were talking today. Some books are going to Africa.
Nice.
Spain, United Kingdom, Germany, Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. They're going all over the place. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
There's that low budget film director in Africa. Remember when we were at we were going to see Black Panther, they were talking about there's a director
Hollywood.
Yeah.
In Hollywood.
Who he does all his own, stunts and videography with like a $250 camera, but has like this Hollywood. It's kind of like a Hollywood away from Hollywood, and like I could see where like a book like this would be of like huge reference for someone like that. So.
Yeah, especially if the visual effects, like the graphics that they use, special effects digitally they don't have the tools to use it. I mean, they can do makeup a lot. I would assume they could do makeup a lot more readily than this, actual special effects.
Yeah, you would think so. Since I've been starting to getting some interest from Africa, I've had some artists, and with the whole book coming out, I've been getting tons of people that love to send me photographs of their makeup. And I got some from Africa. Like, I wish I could remember exactly where now, but they don't have the materials.
Yeah.
So they're really making things out of whatever they can scrounge out. And one guy had asked me, where do you get just something as simple as latex? Like, I jump in my car and I can drive 5 minutes to Nobby's and go buy a jug of latex if I needed it, or Mangelson's. But yeah, they just don't have that stuff, so they're just making things out of
whatever they
got laying around and try to make special effects. And what's kind of amazing is the pictures that I've seen. It's just like, wow, you're really devoted and you really like what you do. If you're making this
caliber of work,
a caliber of a special effect, but don't have the materials to do it. So the best I could do was send some links to them, but I don't know how that works with shipping chemicals overseas.
So you look at the internet and find out what you got for pictures, and that's out of the budget for what you're trying to do. So what did we get?
Right. So so one of the things I did, I know everybody likes talking about scars and injuries, and like
chicks dig scars, man.
Yeah, chicks dig scars. What's that? Bart Simpson says, "Gosh, the United States, something about chicks love." What? How does that go? I can't remember anymore. Chicks dig scars.
I've got an appendix scar.
Chicks dig scars. Something heals. Oh, bones heal. The United States has the highest doctor to stuntman ratio in the world. It was some cool. Anyway, so what I did is I went on Facebook and I said, hey, if anybody out there has photos, of some injuries, send them to me. I'll take anything. The gorier, the better. And I said, but make sure you send them to me on Messenger. Look, shit, nobody paid attention to that.
Yeah,
I said, send them to me on Messenger.
I saw that for sure.
My whole page was just packed full of the most horrific injuries and wounds and whatnot, which was fine. I mean,
you don't care.
I still needed them. And the thing was, if your picture was good quality and was in focus, and you gave me permission to use it, then you'd get a credit in the book. And so everybody was super excited to send me pictures. So I was able to pick up. The book has about 400 photos or something like that. And so I was able to pick up. I probably picked up about 30, 40 pictures that way. So that took some of the bite out of it. And then I just had to pay. I mean, I just had to pay for the pictures. One company out of England, I contacted them, told them what the book was about, and told them their prices were just too high. I just couldn't afford. I liked what they had, but I just couldn't afford where they were at. And I was able to negotiate a deal with them to get.
Yeah.
I ended up getting, wasn't very many. I think I got 30 photos for $2,000.
Holy cow.
So, I mean, it's not a ton, but I mean, it helped, but we were able to negotiate some prices.
I was going to say, I know when you were in the early stages, you were kind of telling me, if you buy a couple, if you buy, it's like, bulk quantities, you buy enough that will give you somewhat of a discount. But I mean, back to those numbers, you get one picture, some of them could be $500.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not making out too bad with that price range.
Yeah, no, I did okay. So
yeah.
Once you break down what I actually had to pay for.
Yeah, for sure.
But going into it, who knew you had to pay so much for photos?
I never would have known. I mean, music rights, maybe. Like logo rights, definitely. But I never would have thought like just wounds. And,
you think you could just spend like an afternoon at the hospital and just been like, click,
right?
Click, yeah.
Just walk around.
Can I
get a picture of this wound, please?
Yeah. So
that'd be such a HIPAA violation. I'm 100% sure.
I think as long as you don't show their face, or their
maybe. Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think it's got to be like if you had their permission. If you had the patient's permission.
No, sure. Then you're okay.
Then you're definitely. I would think you're okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So we go from getting pictures and everything, getting the book put together, and then I mean, was there a point in time where at all you were hesitant on continuing when?
No, not really. Not once. Once I paid for my first few pictures, I was like, well, now I'm in. I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
And no, I was in the whole time. I never really felt like backing out. And I contacted, what is it? Those death farms. I know that's not what they're called. Body farms. I contacted a couple of universities that had body farms, and they were a little hesitant about it. They didn't quite think it was on the professional level of a medical or investigative thing. So that kind of fell through. And then I was able to get a hold of a forensic pathologist out of India. And he just thought the book was the greatest idea ever. So he sent me a lot of stuff. That was fun. But as long as those things kept happening and things were positive and it was moving forward, I never did feel like backing out.
So I completely forgot. We totally missed it. We didn't even say the special effects guide of real human wounds and injuries, because we never said that the entire time we've been talking.
Not at all.
Should have said it, Josh. You should have just busted in.
I was going to wait till the end.
It's Benito's book.
Yeah, it's Benito's book. That's why I wore the BB shirt.
Created by Benito Garcia as on the front. Now you said you're in the book.
I do have one injury in the book. When I was skateboarding a couple of years ago, I hadn't skateboarded the whole winter. I think spring had come around. So I hopped on my board and heading down a giant hill, which I've done a million times, except for this time I got the speed wobbles.
Ooh.
Wiped down. The first thing to hit the ground were my hands.
Yeah.
And so I had great pictures of
road rash.
Yeah,
the skin just ripped completely off.
That's crazy.
That's cool. And I was able to put my daughters in the book, my grandsons in the book.
That's awesome.
He had a giant spider bite on his cheek, so that was
wow.
That was cool for that.
That's neat.
Yeah.
So I had a train of thought, and then I forgot we said the book's name. I didn't say the book's name. So you get the book all together. What was the last bit you had to do there? Or you could take it.
The last bit that I had to do as far as
the final touch that you got put in the book. You were telling me at work.
Oh, what the heck? I don't know. Help me. Help me out.
The special page in the front.
Special was with
Tom.
Savini?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
So great. No, it's such a great story. So I kind of throw his name around like we're friends and we're acquaintances. So he's been my hero since I was a kid, since I was probably 13, 14 years old. And only because I loved all the movies that he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then through Fangoria magazine, I figured out who did the effects, and that's how I learned who he was.
Which, by the way, they're coming back, right?
They're totally coming back.
That's awesome.
They're going to launch in October. I think they're shooting for Halloween.
Halloween release.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Excited.
My mom used to. I told you my mom's big special effects and just a gore kind of lover, and so she used to have a bunch of those. My stepmom.
So cool.
So I was I'm familiar. I never a subscriber, but definitely.
Right.
It's
such a great thing.
I'm trying to think of what the word would be for that, like goraphy or something like that, like love of gore.
Oh, right.
Like
it's not like gore, like a phobia. It would be like
because phobia is fear, yeah. And then
So
philos
addicts of some sort.
Yeah.
Or Sophia is love. So
Erratic?
yeah, I have no idea. Yeah,
I mean something to that effect. But
I almost said agoraphobia, and I was like, no, that's the fear of going outside.
So back to
so anyway, I throw his name around like we're friends, and really he probably wouldn't know me if I was walking down the street, but if he were to see me. But I met him at a con in Texas. We went to Texas Frightmare, and I had my fanboy moment, nerded out, had my picture taken with him. Then the next time I saw him was in Kansas City at Crypticon, and I sat down and talked with him for a little while at his booth. Things were kind of slow, I think, on that first day, Friday.
Were you there as Wetworks? Yeah. Nice.
And then, he judged a makeup contest and liked my makeup the best of everybody's. Again, I'm bragging, but
no, do.
We were kind of wandering around. A friend of ours, Alicia.
It's not bragging if you can back it up. That's Kid Rock 101 right there.
How was that?
Alicia, what's that?
How was it? Kid, you're going next week? Next week? Oh,
I always say if Burt Reynolds and Kid Rock had a kid, it'd be me.
So
anyway, so we were at Crypticon and he was there, and my friend Alicia had come down with us, and she kind of planted herself at his booth, and they became chummy the entire weekend. She worked his booth and helped him collect the money, and she was pretty much his handler because he didn't have one. So that was my in, because Alicia and I are really good friends. I was like, that's my in right there. Cool. So now I kind of got this connection. So at one point I said, Alicia, I go tell Tom to send me a friend request on Facebook because he's not accepting me because he's full up. I said, you can only have friends.
Kick one out. Let me in.
Yeah, so sure as shit, he did. He sent me a friend request.
That's awesome.
So I was very respectful of that. I didn't overdo it, and I never really contacted him about anything stupid or shit like that. And we went to Monster Palooza last year. And I went to his booth, and I had a picture for him to sign. Told him who I was. And he's just like, yeah. And I was like, you dated my friend Alicia? And he's like, yeah. And who? So completely forgot who I was. I had him sign something. It cost me like $40. And so anyway, so the one that, again, like I said, when the book was kind of in its infancy stage, I contacted him and wanted to pick his brain about what he thought about the whole thing, and he did think it was a great idea. Thought that there was already reference guides out there. But so I told him, I said, I'm going to send you a copy of the book because I just don't think that you realize what we're doing here. And so I had a proof copy made. It was coming back anyway just so we could proof the book. And I had dedicated the book to him. And I put, right next to the dedication was a blank page that said, reserved for Tom Savini. And I'd already had Stuart Bray had donated some words to the book. So I thought, I'm going to leave this page. It says reserved for Tom Savini next to dedicated Tom Savini. I'm going to send him the proof. So I sent it to him, and I wrote him a message before I got there and said, hey, book's on its way. If you like it or you think it's interesting or it's a valuable thing to artists, there's a section in there. If you want to write a couple words, that'd be great. So I sent it to him, and I knew what day it was supposed to get there based on the tracking, and I totally was this crazy stalker.
Made sure that they signed for it to get it.
I was supposed to get it, and
he's waiting. It's been delivered.
Right. So I know what day he gets it. No response. I'm like, what? He's got it in his hand. How's he not responding to me about how awesome this book is? So I made it one whole day. So the next day rolls around, I fire him a message. I fire him a message on Facebook. I was like, hey, did you get the book? Just curious, see what you thought, see if it was something you thought was interesting. Just checking in,
Yeah.
Kind of playing nonchalant. And he wrote me back right away, and he's like, got the book. I think it's freaking awesome. It's even better than the reference guide I've been using for years. And he's like, this thing is it. And he's like, I'm more than happy to send you some words to put in the book on that section that you saved for me. And said he wanted to try to put it into his special effects school as part of their required reading.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's kind of a sort of a Cinderella story with dealing with him anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Really, because he just didn't think it was a great idea. Complete flips. So
Stalk your idols.
Super cool. Yeah,
Just kidding.
Particular case, it worked out pretty good.
So going back to the references that they use, I mean, you said medical books and stuff, obviously those have those pictures that might do well enough, but I mean, you got to sift through all the medical jargon and stuff like that. And you basically just wanted image reference, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of.
And the written sections aren't very long. Each chapter has one page and that's it, because I just really wanted to fill it up with images. And so the written sections basically are what it is, like a definition of what it is, medically, what it does, or why it looks the way it does, or how it acts. And then I broke it down into like a section on black eyes. It falls under bruises, so you go to the bruises section, and it goes in and explains why a bruise turns yellow or why a bruise turns green, how long it takes for that to happen, why does the blood pool in certain areas on your face if you get a black eye, just certain things like that to really break it down and help an artist to look at a picture but then understand why it looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the colors I want you to pay attention to. I don't get into a lot of how-to because there's so many how-to makeup books out there.
I know we had talked about
I
that
really didn't want to do that.
a while ago. I didn't know, I don't know what I was inquiring about, but I just asked, if it was if you were going to do a how-to do makeup or, then you're just like, no, I'm sticking away from that because it's just saturated in the market.
There's so many of them out there. I really want to do something unique, but yet was still specific for special effects makeup artists.
Cool. So, I mean, do you have, obviously we have your website. You want to go ahead and plug that and kind of plug
the
your
website for the book? Yeah. It is www.sfxinjuryguide.com.
Nice.
It was so much easier to do that than the whole title of the book.
Yeah. I hear you there. So I guess, oh man, sorry. I'm just peeking over Josh.
As I'm flipping through.
Yeah.
I'm about to ask a question. I just want to make sure I
Go
did my research first before I opened up my mouth and was
Editing that
quickly
for 6
schooled.
months. The only sections that really got to me were, it was 2. I mean, it was
That was one of my questions I was going to ask.
skin conditions got to me, but when it got to ulcers or bed sores, Jesus, like I was so done.
That's what my finger looked like when I ran it over with a sewing needle.
I couldn't do a full day worth of editing on ulcers and bed sores.
Yeah.
Just too grotesque.
So my question that I was going to say, so we talked about how there's a lot of interest in Africa. And I was just curious, maybe because in this book, predominantly it's mainly Caucasian skin, and the effects on that. Are you thinking of maybe, a sequel to this book where there's, how it would appear on, darker skin or like different skin types, I guess I would say. I mean, because I think that some of the injuries, might look or appear different, especially with the colors and stuff like that. And I don't know if that would be a better reference guide, especially since there does seem to be an African audience for you.
I apologize for that. No, that's a great point. It's a really good question, and I think a lot of artists probably struggle with that in general. We had we're doing a movie in a couple of weeks where it's going to be sort of a in the hood, gangster movie, and part of the special effects were like black eye, and things like that. And that's something I had to go research then, because I'm thinking, you know what? I never done a black eye on a
black guy.
African American black guy. And so yeah, I had to look it up. So those are great points. There are some in there, but you're right. I mean, the majority of it is Caucasian.
Well, and I mean, like from where your sources were, where your audience was, and I mean, honestly, film in general. I mean, take The Walking Dead, for instance. A lot of the zombies on there, when they are people of color, the makeup is no different than some of the other zombies. And you can kind of tell, like, there is something different to it. And so I think it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. And I think it's something that, could just skate by unnoticed. But it was just, I was looking through the first time. And then once we mentioned Africa, I was like, man, like, some of these guys are looking at and maybe it's the exact opposite problem. Maybe the reason why this might be so popular in Africa is because they already know how wounds look on people of color, and not necessarily on, Caucasian white people.
Yeah, that's true. The section in the book that has the most reference photos that are on dark skin is the decomposition section.
Yep.
And that's
right in the very back.
Yeah, and that's because, like I said, the forensic scientist or pathologist is from he's out of India, and he travels all over the world, and a lot of the stuff that he sent me was from Africa. There's a lot of things going on over there, and so there's a lot of photos. And then I think the cut section, if you go to cuts, I think it's pretty close to the beginning. Some of those photos came from him as well, and they're pretty horrific with almost complete decapitations. And I think it's back one more maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So wow. I mean, there's some in there for sure.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably enough to get you by, but that's a good point. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Well, I mean, you could even have, for like an Indian special effects guide, or like an African special effects guide, or, like a European even. I mean, like it's something like that. This could be more, and you could have like an anthology of reference material.
True, I could, or instead of really breaking it down that specific, I could just
put it all in one big book.
Yeah, just include more photos. I hadn't really thought about it. Being a white guy, and I don't have a struggle like that.
Yeah.
I just never entered my mind. So nice for you to represent that.
Hey, I mean, like,
their black struggle with special effects makeup.
This month's podcast has been a lot on. We were Sexy Nerd of the Month. We had a very hard hitting talk about Black Panther, almost over an hour and a half, almost last week, where we did talk about people of color and things like that in movies. So it's just, I mean, if people are following along, listening to this podcast week by week, it's something that I was like, hey, this is relevant. And I mean, interesting too. So I was just like, hey, I should represent, I should ask that question. Cause I mean, I think this is an awesome book. I think that, I mean, it's something that I think you're right, and needed to be out there quick and easy. I'm thinking of more ways to like index it as well as I'm looking at this. I'm a weird thinker like that. And I'm like, I wonder if there was an easier way to index, like if we did it alphabetically instead of.
Well, and I thought about that too. After I'd made the book and it came out, and I was actually looking something up in the book, and I was scrolling through the index, I was like, I should have put that SOB in alphabetical. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But instead I didn't.
There's going to be. See, I feel like I know your kind of the way you're thinking is like it seems like you went from less severe to more severe.
That's kind of the progression of the book.
And that's
sort of happened organically.
That's what I was going to say.
Researching the book. Yeah.
You started off with lighter, and it kind of speaks to special effects. And that's, I think, where I understood it is, most people who are starting in special effects are doing lower cuts and bruises. So and then you get into things like The Walking Dead and zombies and stuff, and you need decomposition and everything like that. And that's, I feel like, the higher end of the scale. So I mean, I could see it going both ways. Maybe an index, an alphabetical index, just so where you put the index in alphabetical order, but then the page numbers are, askew like it is. I wanted to ask, because you had mentioned, Tom wanted to possibly use it in his school, a special effects school. You kind of mentioned at work the other day that you had a couple other people kind of seeing some sort of interest in that as well.
Yeah, I have. I had.
I don't know if you want to disclose that or not.
No, it's perfectly fine. I've had 2 different people get a hold of me that want to use it in their as part of their makeup program in colleges or performing arts schools. So that was good. And then the one was the guy, the military.
That's what it was.
The military. He does training for. He specifically deals with trauma and things that people are going to see on the battlefield. And it was crazy. He did. It was American troops, and it was it Australian troops?
I think that's what you were saying the other day.
Australia, and yeah, he travels all around the world to these different countries, and he helps train their medical units with their military programs. And so he was super excited about the book because he talked about how they really need to be hyper realistic, the effects that he does. And then he's going to teach at two different universities. I think it was in Montana. He's going to teach a special effects program. So he wants to make sure that the book gets in for their required reading as well.
That's really neat.
That was super cool. Super, super cool.
Yeah, I think every book, I can see, multiple volumes of this, second edition, third edition, and every time just getting bigger and better. So I think this is a great start, and I honestly look forward to more of this because it's going to be something that I would love to see, next time I watch like a feature length film where like the special effects team gives credit to something like that. I think that would be cool.
And even if you're not a special effects artist, it's just kind of fun to look at.
Oh yeah.
Like just to either gross your friends out or see how far you can get into it before you guys. There's some pretty gross stuff.
Just make a pop-up book next time.
Like an arm breaks and a bone comes out.
That's fun.
It's a pop-up.
So, do you want to kind of do the rest of the show and everything? Think Benito.
No, I don't want the rest of the show.
You don't. Did you have anything else to say? Say about the book? I
no, not really.
Kind of asked all the questions.
No, I appreciate that you came on and let me talk about it. I think you did a good job of steering me and not let me get off on a tangent. So.
No,
Benito was for those listening. Benito was a previous Sexy Nerd of the Week when we were still doing it weekly. And it was right after Planet Comic-Con O-Comic-Con and Baymax Stormtrooper. Yeah. So for those of you guys on Reddit, that's this guy.
So I mean,
on Twitter too. I found out.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. I still see it on Facebook every once in a while.
And what was funny about that picture is it was not the final product.
Right,
I think it was like in your house. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the final product out and it got some legs, but not nearly.
Well, it was, but it was even like there was some painting that still hadn't been done on the body as well. Yeah. So
it was just fitting pieces.
Yeah.
It took off.
So real quick, because that's kind of where we met you in that space. I know you did Watchmen, the comedian from the Watchmen. With this, does that give you a little backseat to doing cosplay for a little bit, or?
My big plan was I was going to do old school Judge Dredd this year at O-Comic-Con. Super excited about it. I was so stoked. I started doing all my research and gathering all my photos and all my references and getting ready to build. And then it also turned out that that's the same weekend of CryptoCon. So it took me right out of that one. So
for sure,
the next year, for sure, it'll be old school Judge Dredd. But this year I'm kind of out. Although I only did Baymax Stormtrooper once, and it was for, I think, just the one day.
Yeah.
And that was at O-Comic-Con. It's never been anywhere else. So I think this year I'll do it at NetCon.
Nice.
Get it out again. And it's survived well. It's still in great shape and just standing in the corner of my basement.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So are you invited as a guest at any upcoming cons or anything like that?
No,
or
not this year. Not that. I did get invited to the one in Grand Island.
I've seen a lot of that. Yeah, the Grand. I think it's just called Grand Con. Yeah.
Grand Con. I got approached months ago about it, and I was super excited to do it. And they said, we'll be in contact with you, as time progresses, and we'll discuss what you want to do panel-wise and this kind of stuff. And then I didn't ever hear anything. And then about a week ago, they were like, hey, you still want to do it? It's like, it's in like 3 weeks, you guys.
Yeah, gotta give me a little bit.
About me, so.
That's close to home, though. I mean, it's closer to home.
A couple hours, not bad.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think this year probably will be all about promoting the book and cons for that. So.
So Crypticon, is that where's that going to be at this year? Or is
it's St. Joe now?
St. Joe, yeah.
So it's only a couple hours, right? It's not bad.
Where do they do it in St. Joe?
That's a great question. Like, it was always in Kansas City. I mean, always.
Yeah.
And nobody from Omaha ever complained about driving down there. We always just made the pilgrimage and made it part of our yearly road trip. And I don't know. They just decided they wanted to make it halfway between Omaha and Casey, and I don't know.
I'm trying to think, if there's anything like any convention hall. I mean, I know there's plenty of hotels with convention centers and stuff in them that they could do smaller things, but.
Yeah, I mean, the St. Joe Convention Center is beautiful. It was great, and there's fabulous places to eat downtown and nice places to stay.
Well,
it was a nice venue. It just seemed odd.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
By no means, but I think some Kansas City people weren't happy that. But whatever.
Yeah.
Better for me.
Yeah, I wish that Kansas City wasn't just wasn't just a little bit closer. That's all.
Yeah.
Because
especially the guy who drives the electric car who can't make it there in one charge.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't.
He's a stop in St. Joe.
Stop in St. Joe and charge. So
How long does that take to charge it?
in St. Joe, we were there for like what, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
No, it wasn't bad at all.
No, but you have to. It was difficult because we had to pay for it, so it was like it almost might as well just drive a car.
Not at all. It was like $5.
$5, 15-minute charge to get you. Does it cap you off it?
No, I only needed a little, boost
Sure.
to get to downtown. And once I got downtown, like they're building a supercharger in St. Joe, and they're also building a supercharger at Bartle Hall.
Yeah.
So
nice.
that's going to be sweet for when I go to more cons, because that's like reserved parking in Bartle Hall that I can just plug in there. And
Is it where at Bartle Hall is it going to be?
I have no idea. Like I'm assuming probably in that parking garage where I usually park.
Yeah.
Where all the EV parking is.
So get some links on our Facebook and everything for the guide here.
Yeah,
but we'll get
and Wetworks, of course.
Yeah,
I mean, we gotta
obviously
pimp out that as well.
That's kind of a package deal with this guy over here.
It is, yeah. And we don't post a whole lot during the winter. I mean, we kind of slow.
Yeah.
Take that time off, but start watching for all kinds of posts and pictures coming up.
Did you?
Tons of projects coming up.
I mean, you helped shoot this weekend. I mean, that's a side deal. Do you do that as Wetworks, or you just do that for help?
It's a different production company.
Okay.
With a couple of friends.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Man, so you got fingers in all kinds of holes.
All kinds of pies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Writing, directing, acting.
Phrasing this whole entire conversation.
I needed to do it that way. So we're gonna hop into nerdy news here. Now that we talked about the sexy that is Benito Garcia, and his his gouging wounds and special effects. And
for all those that don't think
conditions.
we talk about sexy things, this book right up there in sexy news.
So we had Nintendo Direct was Monday of last week, or was it Monday?
I think it was
Wednesday of last week. And some really big news came from that. Josh and I are big Smash Brother nerds. And so they've released Smash Brothers, or they've released information
They
about
had a teaser trailer for Smash Brothers for the Switch.
So
because I haven't heard any other information besides the teaser.
Which
I heard
features
that it might just be a port from the Wii U over to,
which is a good thing, because what Nintendo had been saying for a while for the Switch is they wouldn't port anything over, or they would port stuff over if they didn't want to do another game. They would port it over only if they could make it better. So like Super Mario, or not Super Mario, but Mario Kart 8, they ported that over because they were able to add extra stuff to it. So you got new tracks and everything like that, which was nice. So I'm assuming, like you said, it will be the Wii U version. but with those character ports like we saw in the trailer, the Splatoon characters. I'm not familiar with that game very much, but
it's been taken off. I
Ink
mean,
Girl and Ink Boy, I think
essentially just, like Modern Warfare for kids, except they're squid people.
Yeah.
I thought that was an awesome thing coming out of.
So
I think it was probably the biggest news. I had that and Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot the Crash Bandicoot will be on Switch.
Yep, the whole entire series, like collection.
Yeah. And then what was the other thing? They're not exclusive. Sonic's on the Switch already though, so I guess that's.
There was like a mature game that was coming over. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh dang, like.
It was Leisure Suit
Larry.
Yeah.
That's a cosplay you should do. Leisure Suit Larry. Yeah.
I had to say it first.
Yeah, that's rear wheel drive all over again.
Just get a name tag like "Hello, my name is."
And then a little bit here, Josh really wanted to talk about.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So I've been plugging Star Wars Rebels and the series finale for it for the last couple of weeks, and the series finale did happen as of recording last time. Got home late, watched it, and I was just blown away. So I'm gonna try not to spoil anything because Benito totally wants to check it out. So I mean, the fact that again, Star Wars Rebels is part of the Disney canon. So the things there were, the fact that we don't know what happened to Ezra, we don't know what happens to Kanan. They already brought back, Ahsoka was in the Clone Wars, and we don't know what happened to her. And then we know she makes an appearance in Rebels, and we don't know what's going on. All these characters, they basically, they confirmed that Captain Rex was on the Battle of Endor, which I thought was really sweet. So for those of you fans of Clone Wars, the fact that Rex was the old man that was on the Battle of Endor on the strike team with Han Solo that we've been theorizing for a long time. The fact that a clone trooper made it all the way to the final battle of the rebellion. And I thought that was really awesome. Like they covered information after Rebels ended all the way until The Force Awakens. So there's a lot of ground that they covered in the series finale, but they made a lot of things canon. Time travel, apparently canon now. It's really hard to not spoil things. But the character of Sabine Wren, I think she's going to have probably a lot more coming out of it. And then the creators from Star Wars Rebels, that were, creators and producers were talking about, there's a lot that can happen still. Not quite being Star Wars Rebels, but some other Star Wars adventure, including a live action, including, another animated series or a few animated series. Probably looking at launching on Disney's new platform they're going to launch for streaming series. So we might have to wait a little while. But for those of you that have not checked out Star Wars Rebels, please do yourself a favor. There's only 4 seasons. I don't think there's like 10, 15 episodes a season. It's really not too hard to catch up on. And season 2, fantastic. Season 3, fantastic. Season 4, mind-blowing. Like literally mind-blowing.
So skip season 1 is what you're saying?
You got to watch season 1. It's just, the reveal of Darth Vader was cool, and, the Inquisitors were cool. It was one of those things where I was like, oh, this is, you could tell season 1 was like, we got to get kids hooked on this TV show. Yeah. But then once the kid audience was there, then season 2, 3, and 4, they were just like, okay, now let's bring the adults back because, that's honestly all the people who loved Clone Wars wanted Clone Wars to keep going on. But with Lucasfilm purchasing, or with Disney buying Lucasfilm, they shut down the Clone Wars.
Yeah. So speaking of that live action Star Wars, Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Favreau is slated to direct the live action TV series or a live action TV series, because I don't want to leave it to just one happening. So, but yeah, slated to direct a live action series and of Star Wars. So that's very, very cool, because I really like that guy.
I don't know what it could be like. I'm so nervous and excited for a live, because I feel like the production costs for a live action Star Wars are going to be super high, or it's just not going to look good.
Right, it's not gonna look right.
And that's what I'm worried about. Like, that's why I love the animated stuff, because, you know, production for that is still super high because it's all animated, but it's
that's all you
beautiful. Like,
all you really have to deal with.
I love the animated series.
Why do you think it took so long?
A live action?
Yeah.
Because the last time they went on a TV series, it was the Christmas
The
special.
Christmas
and
special.
it was terrible.
That was the last time, though.
I mean, there was the Ewok movies that came out, and those were ABC live action, or not live act, but they were live action movies.
Yeah.
Like Return to Endor, I think was one of the names of the movies, and then there was another one, and they were, you know, there was stop animation in there,
Yeah.
claymation. I mean, just really
a smattering of effects.
it was TV effects
Sure.
in a movie that was known for, you know, just mind-blowing.
Well, then that
effects.
was all George then that put the axe to it, because he just wasn't happy with his own stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah,
actually
but you have to
ABC that called it off, like, because I
Yeah.
think it was it was supposed to
Oh, he
premiere
was
on
happy with
ABC. I think so.
Wow, that's
And it was supposed to premiere on ABC, and they did one, and it wasn't terrible. And then they did the sequel to it, and that was really hated. So much so that, like, I mean, I'm sure there's actual, like, diehard Star Wars fans that have no idea what I'm talking
I
about
have
right
no
now.
idea what you're talking
It was such a dumb movie. I remember, I mean, it came out
Stupid
long before
movie.
I was even born, and it was just, yeah. I mean, people hated the Ewoks too. So, like, to make a movie that happens on Endor
about.
that is very Ewok heavy,
Yeah.
and very child heavy too. So, like, there's like no adults in the movie till like the ends. It was just very, very weird and very 80s.
Who's gonna carry it? ABC.
No, it's gonna probably be
It's
on,
probably on that
Disney's
network, that streaming network.
Oh, right. That's.
So it'll just be like a Netflix Disney original.
I'm trying to think like who would be able to pull it off and have it look good and would have a budget. It seems like I guess Disney would.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for
AMC
sure,
would,
Disney.
obviously AMC
I mean,
would.
yeah. And then something that Benito and I had talked about, you know, just through daily conversation at work and everything. There was a Dexter spoof trailer that spoof poster that reared its head. Had Dexter, you know, I think it was half of his face, and he had this great big bushy beard on one side, and then it was is it his ex-wife's character or his wife in the show's character?
Yeah.
She was on the other half of the poster, and it was just a bloody mess, and it was like
Dexter's coming back.
it said something about something like the bloodiest lumberjack or the baddest lumberjack. I don't know, something like
It
that.
was like Dexter season 9.
Yeah, the lumber.
I know a lot of people were super stoked for it. I saw it all over Facebook. I had not
I was so
heard.
excited.
However,
that was not something that was real.
yeah, the person that brought it up at work the other day had brought it up at work today, and it appears that it is false, that it will not be an actual. It was just a fan poster that was made, which in this day and age everybody's got Photoshop. I mean,
Yeah.
so
But in this day and age, with
That's true.
things like Ash vs. Evil Dead and Deadpool, if the fans demand it and there is a big enough fan wanting, I mean, I wouldn't hesitate.
when was
to
the
see it
last
again.
when was the last season of Dexter though? I feel like okay, so
Probably
remakes
2013, I'd say.
remakes
5
are
years ago.
rearing their head. I mean, everybody's making remakes, you know.
Come on, Psych season 6.
We I mean, it's a piece of cake to make a remake. That was one of the titles of our
Really funny. I like that.
Oh, we tried to do funny titles for every episode.
yeah.
That's good.
So I mean, that was one of our titles of our show back when they were remaking literally almost everything, or announcing that they're remaking everything. And some of them are great. Some of them are going to be comedic for what they are. But I mean, you got Full House, the Fuller House that came back on Netflix. Now I can't think of any of them, but
Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, yeah, every
always a new Spider-Man, a new Fantastic Four every
Four.
4 or 5 years.
True. We talked even about The Office the other day.
Yeah, they were.
Baby's coming back.
Yeah.
Oh, Will and Grace came back.
Will and Grace came back. Roseanne's coming back later this month. I mean, so it's in this time where remakes are rearing their head. I just don't feel like Dexter's old enough to push that like return deal. And I mean, I feel like maybe you have that cycle with everything where after it's been gone for a long enough time, people come back. I mean, even 10 years ago, they were remaking movies from back in, the 50s, 60s and stuff like that. You had Reefer Madness came back, and that was slated as a comedic, take on the, but I think it still falls in the remake category. Kevin Smith's still planning on doing his Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie.
Pretty stoked about that.
I'm really excited about that as well.
Well, Ready Player One will just take care of everything.
Right?
Just covers every.
It covers every remake. Have you seen the posters for that yet?
Oh, it's beautiful.
There's some of them are so awesome. They had the Fight Club, or not Fight Club, Breakfast Club poster.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it's like all their avatar characters in that pose on the cover, and then they had one on the DeLorean where she's like laying on the DeLorean and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I mean it's that you're right. Ready Player One. That's coming out in, you said 3 weeks, Josh?
As of this, it'll be 2 weeks after, so it's the last week in March. So not Black Friday, Good Friday weekend.
Black Friday, that's
a long time. I'd be really upset if we had to wait till Black Friday to see Ready Player One.
Yeah, so that's I'm excited for that. Hopefully, but like we said, hopefully maybe the Dexter spoof will stir some interest, and I know that guy had some bad health issues kind of toward the end of the season, end of the series. So maybe not. Maybe we'll get a reboot and somebody else, finds his memoirs. If somebody finds his memoirs and carries on his legacy or something like that. But
right. Well, I mean, his dad really kind of taught him to do what he did. So
yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, right, so
some sort of. He never did have.
Maybe he finds a copy of the special effects guide of real human injuries and wounds and injuries.
That's what we need. You need to try to see if you can get as many of those, accidentally in movies all around. Yeah, just like.
What was I watching the other day? Oh, it was a series on Netflix, and everybody was eating Doritos, and then they went on a road trip, and literally there was 4 people in the scene, in the car. Driver, passenger, and then 2 people in the back seat.
Yeah.
Literally, in their bag of road trip goodies was a bag of Doritos placed perfectly in the center of all 4 of them.
Yeah.
So you could not watch the scene without seeing the giant bag of
Doritos.
And then every sign in the background was just a Dorito.
Well, it's that. Some people who just sell out.
It's so funny.
No shame.
Well,
however you get your funding.
Garth.
Put my book anywhere.
Yeah. Every movie you do from now on has to have a bookshelf and just have black books except for your special effects. You just have the spine that just has the. So
it's on every coffee table.
It's on every.
The scene has to be that the actor or the actress walks by and runs their fingers across. Stops for a minute.
They're in the doctor's office, just thumbing through it.
So we got to.
There was one more thing I was going to say about nerdy
go
news.
ahead.
I forgot. And it is totally nerdy news. I know we talk about John Oliver a lot, but last week tonight with John Oliver, they did a special on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and nailed it on the head. Oh my gosh. I love everything John Oliver does so far. But this was probably one of the best talks about my biggest pet peeves about the cryptocurrency boom and all the hype that's around it. And then the way they described, the one guy in the office who's the cryptocurrency, know-it-all, who's hey, you guys should invest in cryptocurrency.
Man, I really wish Dale was.
And
here
I know, I wish Dale was on the podcast so bad right now, because that's exactly what and the fact that we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, where the writers for John Oliver last week tonight, a lot of them were on College Humor back in the day. And one of the guys they called out was Dan from College Humor, was the dude who was all up in everybody's face. And like John Oliver's like, I fucking hate Dan. And I was like, yes, it's come full circle now. And I just, it was fantastic. So if you're ever curious about cryptocurrency, you want to get a quick crash course, there's like a 18-minute video from John Oliver explaining Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and oh man, the decentralization. I can't think of the program that they use for decentralizing the currency, but it's in there.
It's amazing, the whole Bitcoin thing. I have Audible, and I'd listened to a book that explained Bitcoin and how it works and how people make money on it, and the people that make money from policing the transfers, make sure they happen correctly. God, it's just amazing.
And the corruption though, like that's what I'm really upset about. Like I've had to, there's people that have MBAs that I've talked to that are business clients of mine for AT&T that are, let's get into cryptocurrency. What do you know about crypto mining? Like there's this program I saw that if you just, let them use your processing unit to mine Bitcoin, then you can, and if you buy Bitcoin, they'll, and I'm like, you just described a pyramid scheme to me. Like, this is a Bitcoin Ponzi scheme. Like, how do you not realize that? And he's like, oh, no, it's legit. No. And I'm just like, you have a business degree. No, it's not. Like, you shouldn't be listening to your AT&T tech guy telling you not to invest in this cryptocurrency thing. But the program that the guy wanted me to invest in was one of the ones on John Oliver that like turned out to be a like literal pyramid scheme, a Ponzi scheme for mining and selling Bitcoin. Like it's crazy. And it was just something that was nerdy that I was like, hey, we need to talk about that real quick. That I just clicked. So
definitely.
So it was almost sciencey.
It leads us into sciencey. So your processing power is science, and there's more processing power in your computer than was used to pick, or in your phones than it was used to take people to the moons. And now we're putting satellites in space. Talk about satellites, Josh.
Talk about satellites, Josh. Yeah. Well, satellites are falling constantly. It's
is that the whole science
technically
behind?
That, I mean,
it's falling at such a slow rate?
No, it's actually, so for those that don't know, let's just talk about orbits for a split second here. An orbit is as something falls, the Earth is rotating as something's falling. So if you were to like look at like, if the Earth would just like change segment by segment, you'd get this falling shape that would constantly be falling towards Earth. But as the Earth rotates, the point that it's falling towards is forever rotating around. So that's what keeps satellites in orbit, is this just constant falling, which is kind of crazy because it's got a constant velocity, in one direction, but it's falling. And because its velocity is so far in one direction, there's literally empty space to where it falls to every single time. So that's how satellites work. But one of the things that we were going to point out last week, we talked about SpaceX had a satellite launch they were doing that right after we were done recording, they launched, and it was successful. That was for one of I think that was a private satellite. Like, they wouldn't tell us what that was. But so that was the most recent SpaceX satellite that I saw going up. But in other satellite news, apparently China is going to doom us all because they have a ginormous satellite that is falling towards the Earth. And it's not ginormous, I should say. That's not a technical term. But oh man, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this satellite's name.
I'll try it. Let me try it.
Okay, it is. Please don't be.
They painted it with lead paint.
Yeah.
All right. It's
the ones that starts with a T.
Shangzhang.
What? It starts with a T.
Yeah, TIA isn't it Shangzhang?
I don't think so.
Let me see it.
Tangong?
Professional do it.
Oh, my finger's stuck in the new holder there.
The new holder. What is that new holder?
I'll show. He said Shangzhang.
Changzhang.
It's a Tiangong.
Tiangong.
Yeah.
See,
I would more go for that one, but like, so it was a satellite launch.
Like, how do you spell information? Tion, right?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, but not Chinese.
General Cho's chicken. Isn't that TSO?
General Sao. It's the T silent.
Yeah.
So
In
you're right.
Yeah. I mean, that's why that's information. Anyway, go ahead.
Still,
Did I say General Tso's chicken?
I don't know.
I don't remember what it was.
I think you said General Show's chicken. I think
But-
you said General Show's.
Man, we were doing so well. We were talking about African Americans and being represented in
Wait,
Benito's
hold on.
book,
We weren't.
and then now we're making fun of Chinese.
We never made fun of Chinese.
Not the people, just the language.
I literally I pronounced it like it's spelled.
Kidding. I'm totally kidding.
You're rude.
Well, when we don't know, we don't. Oh
When
man,
you don't know,
we
now
don't
you
know. We don't start
You
just
know?
being like, "Well, the food I ate the other day was." But so this is relevant to pretty much everyone in Nebraska, most of Iowa, southern Michigan. But I found it actually on Click on Detroit, their like online news source. So it's southern Michigan is listed within a region of Earth identified as having the highest probability of debris landing from this free-falling Chinese space station. So I should actually say that it's not just a satellite. It was an actual working space station launched in 2011 that they discontinued use on in like 2014. But they actually haven't been able to contact it since 2016. So it's just in kind of falling orbit. It's getting closer and closer, and it will probably impact the Earth's atmosphere on April 3rd is what it's saying, 2018. So there was a yellow band of where it might possibly land, like probabilistically where it would land. The entire state of Nebraska was listed. But just like the southern part of Michigan
Real quick,
was
hold
there.
on, pause. Benito, your hazard lights are on?
They are?
Like, yeah, that's what my roommate's saying. It's not beeping or anything. You just said your hazard lights are on.
Who knows?
We can give the jump start. My entire car is a battery. Actually, I
Sorry.
don't know how to jump start a car with my car, to be honest.
Well, go ahead, continue.
But the space station will most likely be breaking apart into small enough pieces where it's not going to have anything land on anybody's head. They said it's about 1 million times, the chance of getting hit with the debris is about 1 million times smaller than the odds of winning a Powerball jackpot. So that's like into the multi-billions, 1 in multi-billions chance of getting hit with this. However, there are people that win the Powerball jackpot, which means there probably will be at least someone who gets hit by this. So,
Or a car, or a club, or a cow.
or a cow. Well, I'm
That
sure
would be likely.
if it happened in like Iowa, like, yes, there's more livestock in Iowa than there are people. I think actually Nebraska is probably up there too as well with all the rangeland we have.
On the eastern or the western side for sure.
But it definitely was in that strip of land that we should definitely worry about. But the good news is if you're not in that strip of land and you're just a little north of Nebraska, just found out that the Keystone Pipeline in South Dakota just leaked 210,000 gallons of crude all over the place. And it was the largest leak in the pipeline's history in South Dakota. It's a little ironic that there is a statewide vote going on to allow the Keystone XL pipeline through South Dakota. This is what people were protesting about for a long time and not wanting this kind of thing to happen. And we were continuously reassured that, oh, it doesn't leak. There's new safety precautions.
Well, it's leaked twice since then, hasn't it?
Well, it's not the XL. The Keystone pipeline has leaked twice since then, which is their older, outdated one. So,
which is the one they're
technically-
trying to fix.
Yeah, technically, I mean, I guess now they have an excuse to get a new one because they're like, hey, the old one's leaking oil everywhere.
It is. It's a conspiracy.
Maybe. I would not put it past us.
Aliens.
Aliens.
But, I mean, it's one of those things where you just hate to see what happens. I haven't seen anything about, animals or anything that have been affected by the leak, or if people have been affected by it. It is
definitely
something
a
that,
mess to clean up.
yeah, I mean, and we're talking, that's a lot, 210,000 gallons.
You ever try and pick up runny dog shit out of the grass? It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing, right?
I mean, as far as like damaging to the environment, probably not.
No, definitely not.
But
consistency wise,
yeah, I would assume
it's hard to pick up.
I'm not entirely up to date with what the viscosity of oil coming through a pipeline is, but just yet another reason to promote cleaner, greener sources that are local and not piped in from Canada to the United States.
I agree. We're here.
So
I'm in for it.
Thanks for screwing us over, Keystone. Not Keystone.
Not Keystone. Yeah. Or the beer.
He's always smooth.
So yeah. And then just shout out again to Charles Connolly. He's our Sexy Nerd of the Month. And we'll be getting in touch with him again later this month, I would assume.
You're gonna get in touch with him?
Yeah. Get in touch. The bad touch.
I hope he hears
Nobody
this.
touched me when I was.
I hope his girlfriend hears this.
That's after the podcast. Yeah. So yeah, go check out his page, Ebony Warrior Studios, on Facebook, and then Benito, you want to give us your plugs for the social media again?
Real quick, you can also check our interview with him at Planet Comic Con on our YouTube page, and then obviously our interview we did last week with him as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Just subscribe to your YouTube channel. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been doing that probably since the beginning of this season. A little bit before we tested it out end of last season, but pretty heavy on this season here. So
I'm stoked to go home and watch it.
Yeah. So do you want to plug some of your?
Yeah. Again, the book, you can get it on Amazon. Actually, that's actually the easiest. Does it on anywhere in the world?
Does it give you a bigger kickback one way or the other?
No, not really. I mean, if I go through Amazon, I make about $10 less per book, but I also don't have to go through the trouble of going to the post office and shipping and things like that. So I guess it
so your publisher ships directly from Amazon to.
It's so awesome. It's print on demand.
That's awesome. That's
anywhere
pretty sweet.
In the world, that's what's super cool. So, but yeah, get it through Amazon, or you can go to www.sfxinjuryguide.com. And you can get the book version there, order it, or you can also get a digital download.
Soon to be audiobook.
And a pop-up.
Sure.
And a pop-up audiobook.
And then look for us anywhere. Instagram, Facebook, look up Wetworks Studios. We'll pop up somewhere.
Perfect. Are you going to run a separate you got a separate Facebook page for it, but you can run a separate Instagram or anything like that? Or?
I don't think so. I've sort of linked it with Wetworks. So we've got a pretty good following on Wetworks with Instagram, so it just made sense to sort of
of course.
Plug it there. So.
Definitely. And then, as always, you guys can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe at YouTube, and listen to us at SexyNerdScience.com, SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn, or Podcast Addict. And then we've got some merch, Josh. You want to talk about the merch?
So still have T-shirts on Teespring. Still waiting for that Patreon to come out. It's such a pain launching Patreon.
It's a Patreon.
It is a Patreon to launch our Patreon. But we're still trying to get that going. I'm sure we can just have a tip jar somewhere if you guys want to just drop that off. But also we have our Audible free trial. Again, SexyNerdScience.com/Audible. Benito already is an Audible user, so he can't necessarily do it, but I'm sure there are some awesome perks what's your favorite thing that you've listened to / read on Audible lately?
One of them was, it was a zombie story about, it had happened at a con. Was it Star Trek? Trekkie Con? And everybody turned into zombies.
Oh my gosh, so you got a bunch of Trekkies, people dressed as Trekkies running around as zombies.
And of course,
that sounds an awful lot like my screenplay.
It was really good. Let's see. Gosh, what was the one about H.H. Holmes? I'm big into true crime. The Devil in the White City, I think it might have been called. Talked about the World's Fair that had come through.
Nice.
It was really a weird mashup of, I really thought I was going to get an audiobook on H.H. Holmes. But what they did was they did this really weird mashup where part of the story was about the World's Fair and what it took to get it going, and then they would kind of cross over into the H.H. Holmes, the killer.
Oh, wow.
And his victims, what he would do, and it just was this crazy back and forth. But it was
really neat.
But yeah, all kinds of great titles.
Yeah, guys.
Learned about Bitcoin on there.
Yeah, definitely awesome thing to do, and ways to help your brain. I'm gonna try to. There's a brain, like a educating website that I've seen a lot of creators use. I'm going to be trying to reach out to them to see if that's something else that we can do, to have a link for that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of online learning tools that I think would be awesome for our listeners. If they're at all curious, they could also do something like that as well. So if we can get you discounts, I'm all here to help.
Yeah, definitely.
So
especially if we can, if it supports us as well, it's a little reciprocal thing. So
do you know what we are at for time?
We are at like an hour and 20 minutes. So.
Okay, never mind. Find out next time, or just ask me about my screenplay that sounds an awful lot like that zombie story, entitled "All I Want for Christmas Is Brains."
All right. Well, that's all the time we got. Thanks for listening and watching if you're on YouTube, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.